Hola, José. Bienvenido. Did I pronounce correctly?
That was fantastic, Erika. Well said.
Yes, thank you. But I didn't pronounce your surname because for me, too much consonant together. So can you just pronounce it correctly, José?
GORROTXATEGI. It's being able to really find your way, and freedom is really being able to struggle and to enjoy and to love and to hate, but be able to follow the process that makes you get out of that or makes you actually understand why things are happening and be able to make decisions for the future that put you in a better position. And I would say freedom is the context that allows all that to happen. Generally speaking, I don't know if I'm explaining myself very well, but in the context of what are we talking and rugby, and especially in women rugby, freedom is the fact that we need to have equality of opportunities for everyone, but also the whole context needs to be equal for everyone. So this struggle of playing a sport like rugby and how difficult, rugby is not an easy sport. Rugby is not something that people get in the first game or the first time they watch a game, or you play one day and you understand how it goes. Rugby is difficult. And that, I think that is one of the beauties of the game we play and the game we enjoy, that if it was simple, it wouldn't be so enjoyable. And if it was simpler, it wouldn't be so similar to how life is for many of us. And life is not easy. Life is challenging. You don't get what you want if you don't work hard. You don't get what you want if you don't really invest time and you try to work, not only physically, but mentally, on the things that you want and you want to achieve. And sometimes you will not be able to make it. I mean, I all my life wanted to be a number 10 and play a scrum, fly half, but I was not good enough. And you learn that, okay, I have one desire, I want to do something, but life doesn't work like that. So what can be the best thing for me? What can I do if I cannot be a number 10? Okay, so let's find my position, my role in life. And I think this is the beauty of the freedom, that you play by the rules and you find out something that is good for you. And that is also freedom for me. I think we all have gone through periods of life where we are not really sure. And if you look at how society is established today and how the educational system works and the pressure we get from family about do something with your life, there is no many room for us to have time to think. Some people are very lucky and they right away, they find out that they want to be lawyers or engineers, or they want to be doctors. And they love that from they were 16. And in my case, it was a bit more complex. I loved many things and I enjoyed doing a lot of different things. So it took me a while to really discover my passion. And all my life, I loved planes, and I was lucky that I flew some planes, gliders and small propeller planes with some friends. I don't have the license, but I really enjoy it. And I love the whole aeronautical world, and that's how I started. I started with an aeronautical engineer. I was not a very good student, I must say. I spent a bit more time in the bar than I should have done, so I didn't go really well. So I only stayed 1 year. And then after that, I started studying business administration for 4 years. But again, it's part of the process of finding yourself. And sometimes we find out through trial and error. And that was my case. And then after 4 years studying business administration, almost getting done with that, I had enough, and I started to become a primary school teacher. And that's, I finished that. So my parents were happy, and they were not giving me too much grief. And this is actually linked to becoming a student, is when I went back to sport again, and when I actually moved to a different country, and then when my rugby career started again. So I've done many things, and I think it's part of what defines me and my different interests. But also I think it's something that has given me a huge amount of background and context to understand how things work and to understand complex scenarios, and especially to understand people that struggle in sport or people that struggle in different areas, which is something that you can relate very much to rugby, the difficulty that has to do, that is implied with playing something as complex as rugby. And how do you find solutions around that? And how important is to give time sometimes to people and to projects to find the way. Everyone knows World Rugby, I think, which is the International Federation of the Sport of Rugby, and they're based in Dublin. So underneath World Rugby, there are different regional associations. A regional association is basically the World Rugby ambassador in a region, if I may. So in Europe, we have Rugby Europe. In North America, they have Rugby Americas North. In South America, they have South America Rugby, Rugby Africa, Oceania Rugby, and Asia Rugby. So I work for Rugby Europe, and our role is to support the development of the European Rugby Federations, or rugby unions, as we call them in English. And I joined Rugby Europe 8 years ago. I started working with a mass participation program that was looking after how to increase the number of players and participants across Europe. And my role has changed slowly in the last 8 years. And my current job is Rugby Services Manager, which many people don't understand what it is because it's a complex topic. But basically, my job is to support the overall development and growth of rugby federations across Europe. And we base that on a number of different pillars. So one thing that we work really close with federations about is to grow the number of players overall, youth, senior, adults, and also the support staff, so coaches, referees. So that's one of the key pillars that we work with unions. The second key pillar is about supporting the development and the growth of the organization. So if you want to have more people playing rugby and more clubs, you're going to have a stronger organization. You're going to have more people. You're going to have more funding. You're going to have more training for your employees. They're going to have to be more capable to manage all that rugby. So that's the second pillar. And the third pillar that I do is supporting all the different areas, training, anti-doping, competitions orientated, and to serve as a bit of Rugby Europe ambassador or contact person for all the federations. We have 48 rugby unions, rugby federations in Europe. So I am some sort of a first point of contact for every topic that they need to find information about. So those three areas is what I do for Rugby Europe. So understanding how we grow the number of people engaged in rugby, players, coaches, everything. Understanding how we grow the organization and supporting the growth. And the third is serving as a first point of contact for unions for any question or any topic they want to discuss or they need support about. And that's what I've been doing for the last 3 years. And part of my role in those three is been actually support the women committee. We have different committees, and one of them is the Rugby Europe Women's Subcommittee, which specifically deals about topics involved with women rugby, not only competition orientated, but how do we get more unions understanding the importance of having more women playing? How do we identify and take down barriers that stop female participation from growing and blooming? But also, how do we actually tackle issues that we have with enhancing and promoting talent in women rugby? So more women head coaches, more women top referees, more talent in the board of directors of different federations. And I've been the Rugby Europe member supporting that commission for the last 3 years. And that's how I got very close on an administrative level to women rugby, even though I was coaching rugby as well for women many years ago. Europe is a privileged region, if I have to be honest. And I'm talking generally speaking. Of course, there's some countries where difficulties are bigger, and there's some clubs where individuals are a bit tougher to change mentality. But Europe overall, if you compare it to the rest of the world, it's been a very positive region in terms of including more women in rugby. I mean, rugby was an extremely male-orientated sport when it started, and still there's some resistance to change of some individuals. However, overall, I think the inclusion of more girls playing rugby and the inclusion of more initiatives to just, I would say, normalize the fact that girls have to play if they want to, and there should not be any stop or barrier to that. It's been really good in Europe. The number one issue I think today we face in Europe, it's individual mindset change. How can we finally convince that this normalization of anyone can play rugby, and women, anyone is anyone, whether you like it or not, it's inevitable. And the faster we change that mentality and we accept it and we work to normalize that, the better it will be for the sport, but for everyone, not only for the women or girls playing rugby, but for the whole sport of rugby. When you talk to different players or women involved in rugby, even if they haven't played, but they work for a federation or a union, cultural differences are inevitable, and you have to live with them. And that's, we are not all the same, and that's one of the beauties of working with so many countries. But I would say that there is one thing that comes across when you talk to players, former players, coaches, referees, administrators. There is a beauty in rugby. There is a beauty of this game, and there is some part of really enjoying, really being happy about being part of this sport and what it means. And the majority of women, I would say, well, I think it's the same case for men, but in the case of women, that is one thing that puts us all together. The realization that this sport is good, and it changes us within somehow when we get involved in it, especially when you play it. It changes something in you, and it makes you look life and look at daily challenges in a better way, I would say. I mean, I'm not, I'm biased here because I play rugby and I love the game, but I think it's something about being part of that makes you really willing to stay in it and enjoying it and pass that joy across. And that is the common point. And that's why many people stay as a coach, or stay as a referee, or stay as a manager of the club, or stay just to give a hand on the third half and, make the sandwiches or make the food for the visiting team. And that is something unique. I mean, that you stay not because there is any compensation, but because you really enjoy what to do. And that is something that you want to give back to the game of rugby. And I think that is one thing that unites us all, men or women, but I think that that's a common trend as well in women. I have a few passions and a few hobbies that I do, but one of the hobbies that I do is actually I build plastic models and I paint them from scratch. So this is a plastic model that I built myself. And I thought about, I mean, I also try to fix cars and so on, but this is pretty much a metaphor of that rugby mindset, which is you start with nothing. We just have pieces of plastic and everything is a mess. And you have to take time and study it and dedicate time and be meticulous if you want to have a final product. And the final product is not going to be great. I'm not a great builder, but it's not the final product what you have to enjoy. It's the process. It's the fact that you go through something. And that is something that I think the mindset of rugby teaches us. I mean, competing is great and winning a game, a championship is outstanding. But what is even more amazing and what we need to actually wake up every day thinking is about it's the stand up and carry on even if you've been tackled hard and it hurts. So even when you screw up and you break one piece of plastic and you are just you don't understand how to do it and it's wrong and it doesn't fit and you cannot carry on, just take your time, see another angle and carry on, because you can finish it. You can end up finalizing what you want to do, and it's the whole process of what you learn through it what is really the learning experience, not just when you finish. And it's kind of a silly thing, but the way you build a model like this and the time that you spend and how you think it and how you have to focus to find the solutions, it's something that I relate very much to the rugby mentality, is that no matter the odds, stand up, carry on, and let's get it done with it. And I met an absolutely unbelievable man, Ronan. Yes, to give you a story how unique this person was. He was in his 60s, early 60s, and his daily job was to fix buildings, not going on an scaffolding, the facade of the building, not going on a scaffolding, but actually hanging on a rope from the top of the building and then fixing the building from the outside. and he was in the early 60s. He was the most nice, sweet, open, wonderful, hardworking. He never stopped smiling. He was always having a good word for something. And in our conversations, he said one sentence to me that actually it's been resonating with me in my job and what I do, which is understand before trying to be understood. And I've taken that sentence with me every day in my daily life, but also in my job and the way I try to see the sport that we do and how we try to grow it. It's very difficult to find common ground and to work together if we don't try to understand each other before we try them to understand us. And that is one thing that I learned in my career in rugby from a rugby person that was absolutely outstanding. Unfortunately, he passed away a few years back. And I've taken it with me ever since.